My fellow Americans, my name is Paul Johnson, Florence, Kentucky. We have met at a Trump rally or some kind of an event, but I'm in Florence, Kentucky. My phone number is 855-9-USA, and I have something that I'd like to share with you. I was in a hayloft in a barn in Grassy Creek, Kentucky. It's a little community, not even on the map. Just maybe a couple miles from Butler, Kentucky. Two fellows came by. There was a revival in 1950 in September at the Grassy Creek Christian Church, which was a couple miles from where we lived. They wanted to talk about Jesus. Back then we had 2-week revivals, which is, of course, unheard of today. It's they've gotten down to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and today. But nevertheless, it seems like a different world in which we live today. But I don't recall exactly what was said. Paul Banta was one of the fellows, and Ed Crandall, who both have stepped into eternity. And Bob Jr. and me and several people confessed our faith in Christ on a weeknight. I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday. And then on a Sunday afternoon, about 2 o'clock, about 2 o'clock, Bob Jr. and I and about a dozen neighbors were baptized or immersed into Christ for remission of sins, Acts 2:38. I've never forgotten that day. I heard a song a fella wrote several years ago. It went something like this: I've had a birth I can't remember and one I can't forget. I don't remember when I was born physically. I was born at home, as a lot of you may have been if you're older. In fact, every one of us kids were born at home. And we were about 30 miles from the hospital in Covington, Kentucky. But I have had a birth I can't remember and one I can't forget. Something that's upon my heart is the prayer that Jesus prayed before he went to the cross. Luke records that Jesus sweat, as it were, great drops of blood. There's actually a medical term for that. I remember talking to someone who was on Guadalcanal fighting the Japanese, and he said that he went into a foxhole one night with a fellow who had dark hair. The next morning, that fellow's hair was white, under tremendous strain. I still can't get over the fact that people won't kneel for the national anthem. These people are a bunch of jerks. But anyway, that prayer that Jesus prayed, he said, "Neither, Father, I'm not praying just about my apostles, but for them also which will believe on me through their word, that they may be one as thou art, Father, in me and I in thee, that they may be one in us, that the world might believe that you sent me." Now that's the King James version of that. Today the world doesn't believe that God sent Jesus because of the ripped off, sectarian, skewed message that the church puts out. Heard a fellow say one time that no man has a right to ask another, what church do you belong to, because there's only one and there'll never be another. I have, through the years, had an enemy called the clergy system. I went to the Cincinnati Bible Seminary, graduated in '59, and I've always hated, despised, and I'll use the word despised, the clergy system that lifts one person above another. Unless you're a Bible college graduate or a drug addict, most churches won't let you near their pulpit. That's going to change. We're going to have to make some new wineskins to put the wine in. And that's a subject unto itself. I want to show you a photograph that was taken in 1950 on September the 10th. That's me in the front with my hand on my chin. And that's Glendon Thornton, a friend of mine. We spent a lot of time together. And then back of me is Bob and Junior. And that's the day that I had a birth I can't remember and one I can't forget. We want to start something that I hope will spread like wildfire. I want to form a group called 2 or 3 with Jesus anytime, anywhere. I want the soldier boy on the mountainside in Afghanistan to be able to put something on the plate. And so if we, a lot of people can't see the church that God sees. When he looks down on Florence, Kentucky, he sees one church. When he looks down on Cincinnati, he sees one church. That's not the way we look at things. So anyway, I hope that we'll be able to communicate in the future about this. And let me say this before I close. God bless America again, and God bless President Trump. The enemies are swarming. They want to take him down. And remember this, it was the clergy that killed Jesus. I can imagine when they went home after, in a meeting after he'd spoken to them and just ripped the hide off of them in Matthew 23, where he said, "You're a bunch of snakes." And I can imagine one of them speaking up and saying, "Did you really hear what he said?" And somebody said, "What do you mean?" "Well, he said that I was hungry and you gave me meat, and I was thirsty and you gave me drink, and I was naked and you went down to J.C. Penney and bought me a suit, or Men's Warehouse or somewhere." And if that thing really catches on, we'll be out of a job. If you're a Christian, it's your obligation to tell the world how you became such, and tell it to everybody. My daughter pretty well put it right. Years ago, Dawn, what a joy it is to work with Dawn every day. Somebody asked her one day when she was working part-time at a dental office in Florence, they said, "I understand your dad's a preacher." And the next question always comes, well, where does he preach? And Dawn said, "Everywhere." That's good enough for me. Acts 8:4 says that they that were scattered abroad went everywhere preaching the gospel. In 32 years, a group of people that couldn't have read a Bible if they had it took the gospel to the world. Paul said in Colossians, in 32 years. Let's get at it. Let's take it to the whole world again before he comes. God bless.